Lauded as one of the greatest and most celebrated westerns of the 20th century, the 1960 masterpiece The Magnificent Seven featured some of Tinseltown's most sought-after leading men, with big names like Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, and Charles Bronson headlining the exhilarating adaptation of the iconic Japanese epic. The sweeping picture features a group of misfit gunslingers as they are tasked with protecting a small Mexican village from violent bandits led by the villainous Calvera, Eli Wallach. By the time The Magnificent Seven was released, westerns were a certified staple on the silver screen and were fan favorites among curious moviegoers, with the spellbinding flick becoming one of the revered entries in the golden age of the western, 1940 to 1960. The cinema extravaganza served as a stepping stone in the careers of its illustrious cast, namely Steve McQueen, who would go on to dominate Hollywood in the ensuing decades. Lovers of both the actors and genre will be happy to know that they can relive the excitement of The Magnificent Seven, as it is now available to stream for free. Let's take a look at the history of the hit film. A star-studded Western extravaganza featuring some of classic Hollywood's most sensational leading men, including Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson, and Robert Vaughn. The 1960 Western The Magnificent Seven is a Wild West-inspired remake of the groundbreaking Japanese epic Seven Samurai and follows an eclectic and colorful group of skilled gunfighters who are tasked with protecting the townspeople of a remote Mexican village after they are hired to defend them from a deadly band of outlaws. The savvy gunmen must join forces to teach the villagers how to better protect themselves from violent threats, and together, they concoct a plan to trap the dangerous bandits. Brynner, The Ten Commandments, The King and I, portrays the leader of the misfit gunslingers, Chris Adams, with the Cajun shooter recruiting a group of professional hitmen to take on the nefarious gang led by Calvera, Eli Wallach, tracking down capable gunmen like the gambling-loving drifter Vin Tanner, McQueen, traumatized war veteran Lee, Vaughn, and money-hungry assassin Bernardo O'Reilly, Bronson. As the men train the vulnerable townsfolk and learn to deal with the conflicting temperaments of the other members, they develop a deep appreciation for the skills of their fellow fighters and prepare for an epic showdown. The Magnificent Seven production was plagued by hurdles and headaches when production for The Magnificent Seven got underway in 1960. Yul Brynner was the first of the decorated cast to join the big screen extravaganza, with his production company purchasing the rights to the remake for $10,000. Brynner was initially looking to direct the film with Anthony Quinn attached to star, and he was ultimately sued for breach of contract by the actor after Brynner decided to pursue a different avenue. However, Quinn's claim was thrown out because nothing was put in writing. John Sturges, The Great Escape, was hired as the remake's director, and he was eager to cast then up-and-comer Steve McQueen after working on Never So Few together. McQueen was excited to collaborate with Sturges once again and had to come up with a sneaky way to join The Magnificent Seven, as producer Dick Powell refused to let the actor get a release from work on his hit TV series Wanted Dead or Alive. The determined McQueen relied on his experience as a race car driver to stage a car accident as a means to get out of temporarily working on the show, pretending he had suffered a whiplash injury that required him to wear a neck brace. While McQueen was recovering, the blossoming leading man was free to appear as Vin Tanner in the Western. After all the trouble that went into landing McQueen as a cast member in The Magnificent Seven, the cinema staple's presence on set caused considerable tension between lead star Brynner and McQueen, who immediately clashed during production despite the former actor personally requesting the TV star. McQueen was reportedly upset at having only 7 lines, an ironic coincidence, in the original script, though Sturges reassured him he would give him the camera. McQueen and Brynner were constantly at each other while filming, with the younger performer upstaging Brynner every chance he got and trying to steal attention from him in every scene. Despite the major rivalry, The Magnificent Seven was still a cinematic triumph. The Magnificent Seven is a true masterpiece in the Western genre. After behind-the-scenes turmoil and tension, The Magnificent Seven made its highly anticipated premiere on October 12, 1960, and earned a modest $2.25 million at the North American box office, a disappointing number due to the star power backing the epic Western. The engrossing picture fared far better overseas and became a certified hit in Europe after raking in $7.5 million. Its performance outside the United States helped bring its total box office earnings to $9.75 million against a $2 million budget. The Magnificent Seven attracted praise from critics for its fun and wildly entertaining performances, thrilling storyline, and action-packed premise. Music for the sweeping hit was scored by revered composer and conductor Elmer Bernstein, who would go on to compose over 150 original film scores, including True Grit, To Kill a Mockingbird, Animal House, and The Blues Brothers. The distinctive soundtrack features the instantly recognizable main theme and received an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Score. The Magnificent Seven becomes a celebrated classic. While there's no denying that The Magnificent Seven was a solid critical and commercial hit upon its initial release, the legacy of the sensational Western has only grown in the decades since its premiere, in large part due to its stacked cast of talented up-and-comers and phenomenal musical score. The Magnificent Seven touts stellar performances by budding actors like Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson, and Eli Wallach, with McQueen going on to rightfully acquire the nickname King of Cool and star in a slew of cinematic hits such as The Cincinnati Kid, Bullitt, and The Great Escape. Wallach would also amass a decorated acting resume, famously appearing alongside Clint Eastwood in the spaghetti western masterpiece The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, How the West Was Won, and The Godfather Part 3, among countless others. Bronson also emerged as a major leading man and starred in films like The Great Escape and The Dirty Dozen, and all the talented actors who had roles in The Magnificent Seven took Hollywood by storm shortly after working in the acclaimed 1960 Knockout. The Magnificent Seven spawned 3 subsequent sequels, with only Brenner reprising his character Chris Adams for 1960's Six's Return of the Seven, though none proved as successful as the original. While there's no denying that The Magnificent Seven was a solid critical and commercial hit upon its initial release, the legacy of the sensational Western has only grown in the decades since its premiere, in large part due to its stacked cast of talented up-and-comers and phenomenal musical score. The Magnificent Seven touts stellar performances by budding actors like Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson, and Eli Wallach, with McQueen going on to rightfully acquire the nickname King of Cool and star in a slew of cinematic hits such as The Cincinnati Kid, Bullitt, and The Great Escape.